In a distant galaxy, far from Earth, there was a beautiful planet named Althera. Althera was known for its vibrant colors, lush forests, and sparkling blue oceans. The people of Althera were a mix of various alien species, each with unique features and cultures. At the center of this magnificent world was the Crystal Palace, where the royal family lived. The current ruler was Queen Elara, and her daughter, Princess Lyra, was preparing for an important mission. Today was special. Princess Lyra would attend a diplomatic meeting with leaders from neighboring planets. This meeting was crucial for establishing peace in the galaxy. Everyone in the palace was buzzing with excitement. Lyra was a brave and kind-hearted princess, admired by her people. She wore a stunning gown that shimmered like the stars, and her long flowing hair glowed softly in the light. Meanwhile, on another planet, a strong and courageous human soldier named Captain Alex was getting ready for the mission as well. He was part of a special team sent to assist the Altheran royal family. Alex was tall, with broad shoulders and a determined expression. He had short brown hair and bright blue eyes that sparkled with bravery. Unlike the aliens, Alex wore a sleek, silver armor that reflected the light of the nearby suns. The moment arrived for the leaders to meet. Lyra stood at the entrance of the Crystal Palace, eager to greet Alex. As he stepped forward, their eyes met. There was an instant connection between them, a spark that neither could explain. Lyra felt a flutter in her heart as she introduced herself. "Welcome to Althera, Captain Alex. It's an honor to have you here." "The honor is mine, Princess," Alex replied, bowing slightly. "I've heard so much about your bravery." As they walked into the grand hall, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Alien leaders from different worlds arrived, each representing their unique cultures. They discussed trade, security, and the importance of unity. Alex listened carefully, aware that his role was to protect Lyra and the other dignitaries. Suddenly, the meeting was interrupted by a loud noise. The walls shook and the lights flickered. Everyone looked around, confused and scared. Then, alarms blared through the palace, echoing in their ears. Alex's instincts kicked in. He quickly moved to stand by Lyra, protecting her with his strong presence. "Stay close to me, Princess," he urged, scanning the room for danger. Before anyone could react, enemy ships descended from the sky. They were massive, black vessels, looming like dark shadows against the vibrant colors of Althera. The enemy, known as the Zephyrians, was notorious for their ruthless tactics and powerful weapons. They sought to capture the leaders of Althera and used their technology for their evil plans. Alex's heart raced as he prepared for battle. He had trained for moments like this, but he never expected to face such a formidable threat so quickly. "We need to evacuate now," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Lyra's eyes widened with fear, but she quickly regained her composure. "You're right. We must get to the escape pods in the West Wing. Follow me." Together, they led the group through the halls of the Crystal Palace, dodging falling debris and frightened servants. The sound of explosions echoed behind them, reminding them of the danger lurking just steps away. As they ran, Lyra couldn't help but admire Alex's bravery. He fought off Zephyrian soldiers who tried to block their path, showing incredible skill and determination. "Keep moving, Princess," he called, his voice steady despite the chaos. Lyra felt a rush of adrenaline as they reached the West Wing. They stumbled into a small room filled with escape pods. Alex quickly helped everyone inside, urging them to hurry. He made sure Lyra was safely seated before he prepared to enter the last pod. Just as he was about to close the door, he heard a familiar voice. "Alex, wait." It was Lyra. She reached out, her eyes full of concern. "You can't leave without me." "I won't leave you behind, Princess," he replied firmly. "But I need you to stay here and be safe." "No, I won't let you face them alone. We fight together," she insisted, her voice strong. Alex hesitated, torn between duty and the growing bond he felt with Lyra. He knew the risks, but her determination was inspiring. Finally, he nodded. "All right, we'll face this together." With a shared look of determination, they braced themselves for the fight ahead. As the door of the escape pod slid closed, Alex and Lyra prepared to defend their home and each other. The moment felt monumental. They were no longer just a princess and a soldier, but partners united by a common goal. As the escape pod launched away from the palace, the sight of Althera grew smaller. The explosions behind them painted the sky with shades of orange and red. Lyra felt a mix of sadness and hope. She had never faced danger like this before, but with Alex by her side, she felt stronger. "Whatever happens, we'll find a way to stop them," Alex vowed, looking at her with fierce determination. Lyra nodded, her heart racing. "Together, we will fight for Althera." And so, their journey began, filled with danger, sacrifice, and an unexpected bond that would change both their worlds forever. You said, the danger rises. The escape pod soared through the dark void of space, leaving behind the chaos of Althera. Inside, Princess Lyra and Captain Alex sat side by side, their hearts pounding from the narrow escape. Lyra gazed out the small window, watching the stars twinkle like distant diamonds. The beauty of the cosmos calmed her racing heart, but a deep sense of worry settled in. What would happen to Althera? Would they be able to stop the Zephyrian threat? As they approached a nearby planet, Alex activated the pod's communicator. "This is Captain Alex of the Earth Alliance. We need to warn the nearby planets of the Zephyrian attack. They must prepare for an invasion." Lyra listened intently, admiring Alex's dedication. "What should we do next?" she asked, turning to him. "We can't just sit here." Alex thought for a moment, his mind racing. "We need to regroup with your forces. If we can gather more allies, we stand a better chance against the Zephyrians." Lyra nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. "Then we'll find my father's loyal generals. They will help us strategize a plan." With a newfound sense of purpose, they prepared to land on Vistria, a lush green planet that was home to a vast Altheran military base. The pod landed smoothly, and they exited, stepping onto the soft grass. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of blooming flowers. But there was no time to admire the beauty around them. Danger was still lurking. They rushed to the command center, where generals and soldiers were gathered. Lyra introduced Alex, and the soldiers greeted him with respect. "This is our best chance," Lyra said, addressing the room. "The Zephyrian fleet is coming for us. We need to prepare for an attack." The room fell silent as the generals exchanged worried glances. "We must assess the situation," said General Thorne, a tall, muscular alien with bright orange skin and fierce green eyes. "We cannot underestimate the Zephyrians. They are ruthless." Alex stepped forward. "We have to find a way to distract them while we evacuate civilians. I've trained for this, and I know how to lead a successful operation." Lyra felt a surge of pride as she listened to Alex. He was not just a soldier, he was a leader. The generals nodded, impressed by his confidence. "We can use the crystal mines as a diversion," suggested another general, Lady Mira. "If we create a massive explosion there, we can draw their attention away from the city." "That could work," Alex agreed. "But we need to be quick and coordinated. The more we can draw them away, the better chance the civilians have to escape." Lyra took a deep breath. "Then let's put the plan into action. We must act fast." The team quickly organized their mission. Lyra and Alex, along with a group of soldiers, prepared to head to the crystal mines, while the generals would oversee the evacuation of the city. The tension in the air was thick, but Lyra felt a sense of unity among them. They were fighting for their home, for each other. As they traveled toward the mines, Alex and Lyra walked side by side, discussing the plan. "You're really brave," Lyra said softly, glancing at Alex. "I don't think I could do this without you." Alex smiled, his blue eyes sparkling. "We're in this together, Princess. Your courage inspires me too." They arrived at the mines, a vast network of tunnels lined with glimmering crystals. The sight was breathtaking, but there was no time to marvel at its beauty. They set to work, placing explosives at key points to create a massive explosion that would capture the Zephyrians' attention. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the mine. "They're here," shouted one of the soldiers, panic spreading through the group. The sound of distant engines grew louder, and shadows moved in the tunnels. "Get ready," Alex shouted, raising his weapon. "We'll hold them off while the charges are set." Lyra felt her heart race as she picked up her own weapon, determined to fight alongside Alex. She had never faced real danger before, but she was ready to protect her home and the people she loved. As the Zephyrians stormed into the mine, chaos erupted. Alex and the soldiers fought fiercely, using their skills to push back the enemy. Lyra stood by Alex's side, firing her weapon with precision, feeling empowered in the heat of battle. "Keep pushing," Alex urged, focusing on the enemy ahead. "We have to buy time for the charges." Lyra spotted a group of Zephyrian soldiers approaching from the left. "I'll cover you," she yelled to Alex as she aimed her weapon at them. He nodded, thankful for her bravery. As they fought side by side, they became a powerful team, covering each other's backs and moving fluidly. They could feel the bond between them growing stronger with every challenge they faced. Finally, as the last of the Zephyrian soldiers fell, the timer on the explosives began counting down. "We have to get out now," Alex shouted, grabbing Lyra's hand. They sprinted toward the exit, adrenaline pumping through their veins. Just as they reached the opening, a deafening explosion rocked the mine, sending shockwaves through the ground. The force propelled them forward, and they stumbled out into the light, just in time to see the mines erupt in a brilliant display of light and fire. The Zephyrians, now distracted by the explosion, had their attention drawn away from the city, buying precious time for the evacuation. Lyra and Alex exchanged a look of triumph, their hearts racing from the thrill of victory. "We did it," Lyra exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "We bought them time." But as they looked back at the smoke rising from the mines, they both knew that the fight was far from over. The Zephyrians would come back, and they would need to be ready. With their bond stronger than ever, they prepared to face the challenges ahead, knowing they could count on each other in this battle for their worlds. The call to action. The aftermath of the explosion echoed in the air, a mix of smoke and triumph hanging around Princess Lyra and Captain Alex. They stood outside the crystal mines, watching as the flames illuminated the sky, signaling both destruction and a temporary victory. But the reality of their situation weighed heavily on their hearts. The Zephyrians would not give up easily. They were relentless and had already begun regrouping. Lyra looked at Alex, determination shining in her eyes. "We need to plan our next move. We can't let them invade the city. They will harm innocent people." Alex nodded, his expression serious. "You're right. We must gather our forces and prepare for a counterattack. If we act quickly, we can turn the tide in our favor." As they made their way back to the command center, Lyra felt a mix of hope and fear. She had never been in a position to lead before, but she could feel the weight of her responsibilities pressing on her. She was not just a princess. She was a leader, and she had to be strong for her people. When they arrived at the command center, the atmosphere was charged with urgency. Generals and soldiers were gathered around a large holographic map, discussing their next moves. Lyra stepped forward, ready to contribute. "What's the current situation?" General Thorne turned to her. "The Zephyrians are regrouping, and their forces are larger than we anticipated. We need to rally all available troops and prepare for a defensive position." Alex leaned in, studying the map. "If we can set up a perimeter around the city, we can protect the civilians while giving our soldiers a chance to fight back." Lyra took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "We can use the nearby forests for cover." If we position our forces strategically, we can ambush the Zephyrians as they approach the city. The generals nodded in agreement. That could work. We'll need to move quickly, Lady Mira said. Every moment counts. With a plan in place, the group sprang into action. Soldiers gathered their weapons, while others began organizing supplies and evacuation routes for the civilians. Lyra felt a surge of energy as she moved alongside them, ready to fight for her home. As they worked, Alex remained by her side, offering support and encouragement. "You're doing great, Princess. Your people need you now more than ever." "Thank you, Alex," she replied, her heart warming at his words. "I couldn't do this without you." With the sun setting in the distance, they completed their preparations. As darkness enveloped the land, the group set out toward the city, ready to face whatever the Zephyrians had planned. When they reached the outskirts, the tension in the air was palpable. Lyra stood at the front of the formation, her heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. She looked over her troops, seeing the resolve in their eyes. They were ready to fight for their home, just as she was. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the trees. The Zephyrian ships appeared on the horizon, their dark forms silhouetted against the dimming sky. Lyra's stomach dropped as she watched the enemy advance, their numbers growing larger by the second. "Get ready," Alex shouted, his voice steady. "Hold your positions." Lyra gripped her weapon tightly, her knuckles turning white. She felt a sense of unity among her troops, a shared determination to protect what they loved. As the Zephyrians drew closer, her pulse quickened. "On my mark," Alex instructed. "Wait until they're within range, then we attack." The moment felt like an eternity. Lyra could hear her heartbeat, thumping loudly in her ears. The Zephyrians moved with military precision, their dark armor glinting in the low light. As they approached, a chill ran down her spine. This was the moment they had prepared for. "Now," Alex commanded. The soldiers unleashed a barrage of fire, bright beams cutting through the darkness as they aimed at the enemy. The sound of weapons firing filled the air, and chaos erupted around them. The Zephyrians were taken by surprise, their formation breaking as they scattered in response to the unexpected attack. Lyra fought fiercely alongside her soldiers, her heart pounding with adrenaline. She moved fluidly, firing at the approaching enemy, determination fueling her every action. Alex fought beside her, his presence a constant reminder that they were in this together. "Keep pushing forward," he shouted, rallying their troops. "We can't let them take our city." The battle raged on, a fierce clash of courage and strength. Lyra could see her soldiers fighting valiantly, holding their ground against the formidable Zephyrian forces. She felt a surge of pride watching them, knowing they were fighting for their home and each other. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ground, causing Lyra to stumble. She quickly regained her balance, scanning the battlefield. "What was that?" she yelled to Alex. "I don't know, but we need to stay focused," he replied, scanning the chaos. As the battle continued, Lyra caught sight of a group of Zephyrian soldiers attempting to flank them from the side. "Alex, we need to cut them off," she shouted. "Follow me," he called, leading her toward the side where the enemy was gathering. They moved together, weaving through the chaos as they fought off any attackers in their path. When they reached the flanking group, Alex and Lyra launched a surprise attack. They fought side by side, their movements synchronized, a testament to the bond they had developed throughout their ordeal. The enemy soldiers were caught off guard, and with their combined strength, Lyra and Alex were able to push them back. But just as they gained the upper hand, a larger Zephyrian soldier, towering above the others, charged toward them. His armor was thick, and he wielded a massive weapon that crackled with energy. "Watch out," Alex shouted, shoving Lyra aside just in time. The giant soldier swung his weapon, narrowly missing Alex as he dodged to the side. "We need to take him down," Lyra exclaimed, her heart racing. "Stay behind me," Alex commanded, But Lyra could feel the fire of determination inside her. She refused to be a bystander. With a shared look of understanding, they launched their attack together. Alex distracted the giant, drawing its attention while Lyra aimed carefully, finding a weak point in the armor. She fired her weapon, hitting the target squarely. The giant roared in anger, staggering back, but it didn't fall. Alex took advantage of the distraction, using his agility to dodge the incoming blows while searching for an opening. "Now, Lyra," he shouted. Lyra fired again, this time hitting the giant's exposed side. With a final furious roar, the Zypherian soldier fell, crashing to the ground. Panting, Alex and Lyra stood together, their hearts racing. The battle was still raging around them, but they had pushed back a significant threat. "We're doing it," Lyra exclaimed, her heart soaring with hope. "Yes, we are," Alex agreed, his eyes gleaming with pride. But just as they celebrated their small victory, a sudden realization hit them. The Zypherian commander was nowhere to be seen. They had to be prepared for the worst. "Stay alert," Alex warned, scanning the battlefield. "This isn't over yet." As the fight continued, Lyra felt a renewed sense of determination. They had come too far to back down now. Together, they would protect Althera, no matter the cost. The battle for their world had just begun, and they were ready to face whatever came next. "You said, the hidden threat." The battle raged on, each moment filled with the sounds of clashing weapons and the cries of the brave. Captain Alex and Princess Lyra stood resolutely among their soldiers, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they fought against the relentless Zypherian forces. The flickering flames from fallen debris cast shadows across their faces, illuminating their fierce determination. As they pushed forward, their small victory against the towering Zypherian soldier faded from their minds. What lay ahead was still fraught with danger, and they needed to remain vigilant. Suddenly, Lyra spotted a group of Zypherian soldiers maneuvering in the distance, their movements precise as they attempted to flank the human defenses again. "Alex, look," she shouted, pointing toward the approaching enemy. "They're trying to regroup. I see them. We need to cut them off before they can reach our lines." Alex replied, his voice steady and filled with urgency. Without hesitation, they dashed toward the gathering Zypherians, their weapons at the ready. As they approached, they heard the unmistakable sound of an engine thrumming, a low hum that sent a shiver down Lyra's spine. "What is that noise?" she asked, concern creeping into her voice. "I don't know, but it doesn't sound good," Alex replied, glancing around for the source of the sound. The air was thick with tension as they closed in on the enemy. Suddenly, the trees parted, revealing a sleek, black Zypherian ship hovering just above the ground. Its dark surface gleamed ominously, and the thrumming sound intensified. "Everyone, take cover," Alex shouted, his instincts kicking in. Lyra dove behind a nearby rock as energy blasts erupted from the ship, tearing through the air and striking the ground. Debris flew everywhere, and chaos erupted as soldiers scrambled to avoid the onslaught. "Princess," one of the soldiers yelled, rushing to her side. "We need to get you to safety." "No," Lyra replied, shaking her head fiercely. "I can't leave my people. We have to fight back." Just then, the ship's hatch opened, and a group of heavily armed Zypherian soldiers poured out, joining the fray. They were more advanced than the others, their armor glinting with a strange, otherworldly energy. "Focus on the ship," Alex commanded, rallying their troops. "If we can take it down, we'll disrupt their forces." As the soldiers regrouped, they fired their weapons at the ship, but it retaliated with precision. Energy blasts shot out, striking the ground and sending soldiers flying. Lyra's heart raced as she watched the chaos unfold, knowing they had to act quickly. "Alex, we need to find a way to disable that ship," she shouted over the noise of the battle. He nodded, scanning the area for an opportunity. "There, the power source," He pointed toward a glowing panel on the ship's underbelly. "If we can hit that, it might bring the whole thing down." "I'll cover you," Lyra replied, determination flooding her veins. "Let's do this." They moved together, dodging enemy fire as they closed in on the ship. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest as they reached the edge of the clearing. She could feel the heat of the battle around her, the intensity of the situation escalating. "On three," Alex said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "1, 2, 3. They charged forward, weapons raised, and Lyra felt a rush of adrenaline as they approached the ship. She aimed carefully, focusing on the glowing panel. Just as she was about to pull the trigger, a burst of energy struck nearby, sending her tumbling to the ground. "Lyra!" Alex yelled, rushing to her side. "I'm okay," she gasped, shaking off the dizziness. "We have to keep going." With renewed determination, they pushed onward, reaching the base of the ship. The Zypherian soldiers were still firing, but their focus was divided. Lyra took a deep breath, steadying her aim. "Now," she shouted, squeezing the trigger. The blast struck the glowing panel with a powerful explosion, causing the ship to tremble violently. Sparks flew, and a loud alarm blared, echoing through the air. "Nice shot," Alex cheered, adrenaline pumping through him. But before they could celebrate, the ship began to tilt, its systems malfunctioning. It hovered uncertainly for a moment before crashing to the ground with a deafening thud. The impact sent shockwaves through the area, causing the surrounding soldiers to stumble. "Let's finish this," Alex shouted, leading the charge toward the downed ship. With the Zephyrian ship disabled, their enemies began to falter. The humans pushed forward, their spirits lifted by the sight of their fallen foe. Lyra felt a surge of hope as they fought with renewed vigor, pushing the Zephyrians back. But just as victory seemed within reach, a new figure emerged from the wreckage of the ship. A tall, imposing Zypherian commander stood amidst the chaos, a menacing grin on his face. "You think you can defeat us so easily?" he taunted, his voice echoing across the battlefield. "This is only the beginning." Lyra's heart sank. They had come so far, but the fight was not over yet. "Alex, we need to be careful," she warned, her voice tense. "He's stronger than the others." "I know," Alex replied, determination etched on his face. "But together, we can take him down." With renewed resolve, they prepared to confront the commander. As they advanced, the air crackled with tension. The commander raised his weapon, and the battle reached its boiling point once more. "Let's end this," Lyra shouted, her voice ringing with determination. And so, with their hearts united and their resolve unwavering, they charged into the fray once more, ready to face the hidden threat that lay before them. The battle for Althera continued, and they would fight to protect their home at any cost. "You said." A desperate stand. The battlefield was chaos personified, filled with the clatter of weapons and the cries of the wounded. Captain Alex and Princess Lyra stood at the forefront, determination blazing in their eyes. They had fought valiantly, but the Zypherian commander, an imposing figure with a cruel smile, seemed to draw strength from their struggles. "Are you truly foolish enough to think you can defeat me?" the commander taunted, his voice echoing like thunder across the battlefield. "I will enjoy watching you fall." "We won't back down," Alex replied, his voice steady and resolute. "Not now, not ever." With a swift motion, the commander raised his weapon, and a burst of energy surged toward them. Alex dove to the side, pulling Lyra with him as the blast struck the ground where they had been standing, sending up a plume of smoke and debris. "Stay low," Alex shouted, scrambling to his feet. "We need to get closer." Lyra nodded, her heart pounding as they made their way through the haze. The air was thick with tension, and the heat of battle surrounded them. They had to reach the commander before he could regroup and launch another attack. As they dodged enemy fire, Lyra caught a glimpse of her soldiers, fighting fiercely against the Zypherian forces, Their faces were set in grim determination, and she felt a surge of pride. They had come together to defend their world, and she would not let them down. "Lyra, over here," Alex shouted, motioning toward a group of their soldiers who had managed to flank the commander. They raced toward their comrades, finding shelter behind a large boulder as they prepared for their next move. "What's the plan?" one of the soldiers asked, breathing heavily. "We need to distract him while we get in closer," Alex said, glancing at Lyra. "We'll need a strong opening to strike." "I'll create a diversion," Lyra suggested, her eyes shining with determination. "Once I have his attention, you can move in and attack." "Are you sure about this?" Alex asked, concern flashing in his eyes. "I am," she replied, her voice firm. "I won't let him hurt any more of our people." With a nod of agreement, they quickly devised a plan. Lyra readied herself, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. As she stepped out from behind the boulder, she raised her weapon high. "Hey, Zephyrian Commander," she shouted, her voice ringing clear above the chaos. "I'm right here. Come and get me." The commander turned, surprise flickering across his face. "You think you can challenge me, little princess?" he sneered, pointing his weapon at her. Lyra stood her ground, determination flowing through her. "I'll fight for my people. You won't take Althera." With a furious roar, the commander unleashed a torrent of energy blasts in her direction. Lyra dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the blasts as they struck the ground with explosive force. The shockwave sent her tumbling, but she quickly regained her footing. "Now, Alex," she shouted, her voice cutting through the din of battle. Seizing the moment, Alex and the soldiers charged forward, weapons raised. They closed in on the commander, their resolve unyielding. "Surround him," Alex commanded, his voice ringing with authority. The soldiers obeyed, forming a tight circle around the commander. The Zephyrian, realizing he was outnumbered, began to fire at them wildly. But their combined firepower pushed him back, forcing him to retreat. Lyra rushed forward, her heart racing. She could feel the power of her people behind her, their courage fueling her determination. "We can do this," she shouted, rallying everyone. With renewed vigor, they pressed forward, pushing the commander back further and further. The tide of the battle was turning, and for the first time, Lyra felt hope blossom within her. But just as victory seemed within reach, the commander unleashed a final desperate attack. A massive energy blast erupted from his weapon, aimed directly at Lyra. "No," Alex shouted, diving in front of her just in time. The blast struck him, sending him flying backward, his body hitting the ground with a sickening thud. "Alex," Lyra cried, her heart racing as she rushed to his side. "Get back. It's a trap." Alex gasped, struggling to his feet despite the pain. But Lyra wouldn't abandon him. She knelt beside him, her eyes filled with fear. "We need to fight back. We can't let him win." The commander laughed, a sinister sound that sent chills down Lyra's spine. "You think your little efforts can change the outcome? This battle is mine." "No," Lyra shouted, anger surging through her. "We are stronger together. You will not take this world from us." With a fierce determination, Lyra rose to her feet, rallying her soldiers. "We fight for our home, for each other, for every life he's taken." Inspired by her words, the soldiers raised their weapons high, their voices joining in a unified shout. The power of their unity filled the air, electrifying the atmosphere. Alex struggled to stand, pushing through the pain. "Lyra, you're right. We can't give up." Together, they charged toward the commander, their hearts beating as one. With every step, they felt the strength of their cause behind them. They were fighting not just for survival, but for a future free from tyranny. The battle reached a fever pitch as they engaged the commander. Blasts of energy filled the air, and the clash of weapons echoed around them. Lyra's heart raced as she fought alongside her people, their courage inspiring her every move. As the commander faltered under their relentless assault, Lyra knew they were close to victory. Together, they would stand strong against the darkness threatening to engulf their world. And so, with their hearts united and their resolve unwavering, they fought on, determined to protect Althera and the lives of those they loved. The battle was far from over, but they had ignited a spark of hope that would light their way forward. The final confrontation. The battlefield was a swirling storm of chaos and conflict. The air crackled with energy as Lyra and Alex, alongside their brave soldiers, pressed forward against the Zypherian commander. They were fueled by determination, the hope of victory shining bright in their hearts. "Push forward. We can't let him escape," Alex shouted, his voice cutting through the noise of battle. He fought valiantly despite the injuries he had sustained. Each move he made was filled with a fierce urgency, knowing that every second counted. The Zypherian common, now cornered, glared at them with rage. "You think you can defeat me? I am the mightiest of my people. You are nothing but insects." Lyra felt a surge of anger at his words. "We are not insects. We are warriors. We fight for our home and for each other." With renewed vigor, they advanced, moving as a unit, their weapons raised high. The ground shook beneath them as the Zypherian forces began to falter. It was a sight to behold. The tides of the battle were turning in their favor. As they closed in, the commander unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, but the soldiers were ready. They dodged, rolled, and returned fire, their unity making them stronger than ever. Lyra spotted an opening and took a deep breath. "Now, Alex, let's end this." Together, they charged at the commander, their weapons primed and ready. Alex and Lyra stood side by side, determination burning in their eyes. The Zypherian commander, realizing he was losing ground, unleashed one last, desperate attack. A massive wave of energy erupted from his weapon, swirling toward them like a tempest. "You will pay for your insolence." In that moment, time seemed to slow. Lyra could see the wave approaching, a deadly force intent on destruction. She felt a rush of fear, but alongside it, an unwavering resolve. They had come too far to turn back now. "Alex," she shouted, instinctively moving to shield him. But Alex, despite his injuries, stepped forward. "No, we have to fight together. For Althera." With that, they both raised their weapons, channeling every ounce of strength they had left. "For Althera," they cried in unison, and a bright beam of light erupted from their weapons, clashing with the commander's attack. The two forces collided with a resounding explosion, lighting up the battlefield in a brilliant display of energy. Lyra felt the shockwave hit her, pushing her back, but she steadied herself, eyes locked on the commander. The struggle seemed eternal, the energy from their weapons flaring against the commander's attack. But gradually, they began to overpower him, inch by inch, until finally, the Zypherian commander screamed in frustration. "No, this cannot be happening," he bellowed, his power wavering as he faltered under the onslaught. With one final push, Lyra and Alex combined their strength, focusing their energy into a single concentrated beam. The resulting blast surged forward, breaking through the commander's defenses and striking him squarely in the chest. The commander gasped, his eyes wide with shock as he was thrown back, crashing to the ground. Dust and debris flew into the air, and silence fell over the battlefield as both sides stopped to witness the moment. Lyra and Alex stood tall, breathing heavily but filled with triumph. They had won. The Zypherian commander lay defeated at their feet, and with him, the threat to Althera had diminished. As the realization spread among their soldiers, a cheer erupted from their ranks. "We did it. We won." They embraced one another, the bond of unity solidified by their shared struggle. But as the celebrations began, Lyra felt a pang of concern. "What about the remaining Zypherian forces?" she asked, looking around at the chaos still unfolding. "We need to regroup and strategize," Alex said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "We can't let our guard down yet." Lyra nodded, her heart still racing. "We'll make sure Althera is safe, together." As they prepared to address their soldiers, the defeated commander began to stir. "Fools, you may have won today, but my people will never accept defeat." He spat, struggling to his feet. Alex stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "You underestimate our strength. We will fight for Althera with everything we have." The commander sneered, a cruel smile crossing his lips. "Then you will all die fighting. I will ensure it." In that moment, Lyra knew they had to end this once and for all. "No," she said, her voice steady and firm. "This is where it ends. For Althera." With a swift motion, she readied her weapon and aimed it at the commander. "Surrender or face the consequences." The commander hesitated, the realization of his defeat dawning upon him. "You think you can threaten me? I will never bow to you," he yelled defiantly. "Then you leave us no choice," Alex said, stepping beside Lyra, his presence a powerful reminder of their unity. As they stood together, Lyra felt a surge of strength flow through her. They had fought for their home, for each other, and now they would stand tall against any threat that dared to rise again. "Althera will be free," she declared, her voice ringing out with conviction. "We will not let fear or tyranny rule over us any longer." The commander glared at them, but the fire in his eyes began to fade. "I may fall today, but remember this. The Zypherian Empire is vast, and we will return," he hissed, before surrendering. With the battle won and the commander captured, the soldiers of Althera began to regroup. The aftermath of the fight lay heavy upon them, but in the face of adversity, they had prevailed. And as they turned to each other, the bond they shared only grew stronger, united by their struggles and victories. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, for they were the protectors of Althera, and their fight was far from over. A new dawn. In the aftermath of the battle, the skies over Althera began to clear, revealing a bright horizon filled with hope. The once chaotic battlefield transformed into a sanctuary, where the sound of victory echoed through the land. The soldiers of Althera celebrated, their spirits high as they gathered to honor their hard-fought triumph. Lyra and Alex stood together on a hill overlooking the city, their hearts swelling with pride as they watched their people rejoice. The sun bathed everything in a warm glow, signaling a new beginning. "We did it, Alex," Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We really did it." Alex nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Yes, we did. But this victory was only possible because we stood together." Just then, a group of soldiers approached, carrying the Zypherian commander, now restrained and subdued. His arrogance had faded, replaced by the reality of his defeat. "Take him to the holding cell," Alex commanded, his tone firm yet composed. "We need to learn what we can from him." As the commander was led away, Lyra felt a twinge of sympathy. She understood that fear and desperation could drive even the most powerful beings to extreme measures. "What will happen to him?" she asked quietly. "We'll ensure he gets a fair trial," Alex replied. "But he needs to understand that Althera will never be a target again." As they returned to the center of the city, Lyra was greeted by the cheers and applause of her fellow citizens. The people rushed to express their gratitude, their faces glowing with admiration. "You saved us, Princess," one soldier exclaimed. "You showed us what true bravery looks like." Lyra blushed, feeling the warmth of their praise. "It was not just me. It was all of you. Together, we stood against tyranny." In that moment, she realized that their unity had forged something far greater than individual acts of bravery. It had created a community ready to defend their home and fight for each other. Later that evening, a grand feast was held in honor of the victory. The great hall of Althera was filled with laughter, music, and joy as people celebrated their newfound freedom. Lyra and Alex sat at the head table, surrounded by friends and allies. "This is a beautiful sight," Lyra said, glancing around the room. "It feels like a dream." Alex smiled, his eyes sparkling with pride. It's not a dream, Lyra. It's our reality now. As the night wore on, Lyra took a moment to reflect on their journey. She thought of the dangers they had faced, the battles they had fought, and the bond that had formed between her and Alex. "Do you think things will ever go back to how they were?" she asked, a hint of concern in her voice. "No," Alex replied, shaking his head. "We've all changed. We've become stronger, more united. We can't go back to ignorance. We have to keep moving forward." Lyra nodded, understanding the truth in his words. They had faced adversity, and now they had a responsibility to ensure that Althera remained safe. As the evening faded into night, the people began to share stories of bravery and sacrifice. They honored those who had fought valiantly, remembering the lives lost during the battle. In the corner of the hall, a group of children gathered, their eyes wide with excitement as they listened to the tales of heroism. "Tell us more about the human soldier," one of the children shouted, pointing at Alex. Lyra chuckled, her heart swelling with affection for the brave man beside her. "Yes, tell them about how he risked everything to save me." Alex grinned, his cheeks slightly flushed. "Well, it wasn't just me. We all fought together. But yes, I may have done some daring things along the way." The children giggled, captivated by his charm. They hung onto every word, their imaginations sparked by the tales of courage. As the celebration continued, Lyra felt a sense of peace wash over her. The struggle against the Zypherian threat had forged a bond among her people that would last for generations. Suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd as a respected elder stood up, raising a glass in salute. "To our heroes, to Lyra, the brave princess, and to Alex, the fearless soldier. Together, they have given us hope." The hall erupted in applause and cheers, the sound reverberating through the walls. Lyra felt overwhelmed by the gratitude and admiration surrounding her. As the celebration carried on, she leaned closer to Alex, a gentle smile gracing her lips. "Thank you for being by my side through all of this," she whispered. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Alex replied, his voice sincere. "We are a team, and together, we can face anything that comes our way." Lyra's heart swelled with warmth, knowing that they had forged a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. As the festivities began to wind down, Lyra and Alex stepped outside onto the balcony. The stars twinkled brightly overhead, casting a serene light over the city. "It's beautiful," Lyra murmured, gazing up at the night sky. "Just like Althera," Alex replied, his eyes fixed on her. Lyra turned to him, the moment hanging in the air. "We have a bright future ahead of us, don't we?" "Absolutely," he said, his smile reassuring. "And I'll be right here with you, every step of the way." With the promise of new beginnings and the strength of their bond, they both looked out over the city, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Together, they would protect Althera and ensure that hope flourished, no matter the challenges they faced. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and they were ready to face it head-on, united in purpose and spirit.